Beyond the Clouds, Chapter 1, The Decision. Sometimes the bravest journey begins with a single sentence. I want to do this on my own. The first rays of sunlight slipped through the curtains of Phoebe's bedroom, painting soft golden lines across the walls. Outside, the morning air was crisp, and magpies sang from the gum trees that lined the quiet suburban street in Melbourne. Phoebe lay awake, listening to the familiar sounds of home. The kettle whistling downstairs, her father opening the back door to water his roses, her mother humming an old Vietnamese song while preparing breakfast. It was a melody Phoebe had heard almost every morning since she was a little girl. It made the house feel warm, safe, and somehow smaller than it had once seemed. She smiled faintly before turning her head towards the pair of silver forearm crutches leaning neatly against her bedside table. "Good morning," she whispered with a grin. "Ready for another adventure?" If anyone had overheard her talking to her crutches, they might have thought she was strange. But to Phoebe, humor had always been one of the easiest ways to face difficult days. She reached for them, slipped her arms into the cuffs, and carefully stood. The familiar rhythm echoed through her room. Tap, step, tap, step. It wasn't a sound she disliked. It was simply the sound of her life. The smell of buttered toast greeted her as she entered the kitchen. "Morning, sweetheart," her mother, Linda, said brightly. Phoebe smiled. "Morning, Mum." Her father looked up from the newspaper, adjusting his glasses. "Morning, Peanut." Phoebe rolled her eyes dramatically. "Dad, I'm 28. "You'll still be Peanut when you're 80. Her father winked. She laughed despite herself. "I'll remember that when you're asking me to push your wheelchair one day." He gasped theatrically. "So this is the respect I get?" The three of them laughed together. For a few moments, everything felt wonderfully ordinary. After breakfast, Phoebe picked up the empty plates. "I'll wash these." Her mother was already beside her. "No, sweetheart, I'll do it." "Mum, it's only washing dishes." "You've only just eaten. Go and rest." Phoebe hesitated. "I really don't mind." "I know." Linda smiled warmly as she gently took the plates from Phoebe's hands. "But let me." Phoebe nodded. She had heard those words thousands of times. Let me. Later, she reached for the basket of freshly folded laundry. Her mother appeared again. "I'll carry it upstairs. It's not heavy. You might lose your balance." "I'm careful." "I know, darling." Linda kissed her daughter's forehead. "But let me." Again, let me. It wasn't that Phoebe doubted her mother's love. She never had. Her mother loved her fiercely, completely, unconditionally. The problem was that love had slowly become protection, and protection had quietly become permission. Permission to try. Permission to fail. Permission to live. That afternoon, Phoebe sat in the garden while her father trimmed his beloved roses. He had planted the first bush the day she was born. Now there were dozens of them, filling the air with the sweet scent of spring. "They're beautiful," Phoebe said. Her father smiled without looking up. "Roses teach us something." "Oh?" "They bloom because they're willing to face the weather." Phoebe looked thoughtfully at the flowers swaying in the breeze. "They don't stay inside because it might rain." Her father chuckled. "I suppose they don't." She watched a single petal drift gently to the ground. "Dad?" Have you ever been scared to let something go?" He stopped pruning. Slowly, he turned to look at her. "I have." "What did you do?" "I asked myself one question." "What question?" "Was I holding on because it was best for them?" He paused. "Or because it was easier for me?" Phoebe lowered her eyes. His words settled quietly in her heart. That evening, the dining table was unusually quiet. Phoebe kept turning her glass of water in slow circles. She had practiced this conversation in her head for months. Now that the moment had arrived, she could barely find the words. Her mother noticed first. "You've been quiet all day." Phoebe looked up. There's something I'd like to talk about." Her father folded his newspaper and set it aside. I'm listening. She took a slow breath. I've been thinking a lot lately. Linda smiled gently. About what? My future. Her parents exchanged a glance. I love living here with you. And we love having you here, her mother replied immediately. I know, Phoebe smiled, but I don't want to stay because I'm afraid. The smile faded from Linda's face. What do you mean? Phoebe clasped her hands together beneath the table. I want to travel. Her father grinned. That's wonderful. Her mother nodded. We've always wanted to take you to Korea. Phoebe swallowed. I don't want you to take me. Silence. I want to go by myself. The room froze. Her mother's face turned pale. Alone? Phoebe nodded. I've already been looking at flights. You've what? I want to spend a few weeks in Seoul. Phoebe, Linda whispered. No, you can't. I can? What if you fall? I've fallen before. What if you get lost? I'll ask for directions. What if someone hurts you? I'll be careful. What if... Her mother's voice cracked. What if something happens and we're not there? Phoebe felt tears sting her own eyes. She reached across the table and gently held her mother's trembling hands. Mum, I'm scared too. I've never done anything like this. I don't know if I'll cry at the airport. I don't know if I'll miss home every single day. I probably will. She laughed softly through her tears. But I can't let fear decide the size of my world. Linda's shoulders began to shake. I've spent my whole life trying to protect you. I know. And I'm grateful. Phoebe squeezed her hands more tightly. You taught me how to be kind. You taught me to work hard. You taught me never to give up. Now, she took a deep breath. Please trust that you've taught me enough. The tears that Linda had been holding back finally spilled over. I don't know how. Phoebe stood carefully. Step by step, she moved around the table until she was standing beside her mother. She leaned down and wrapped her arms around her. You don't have to stop loving me, she whispered. You just have to let me grow. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Only the quiet sound of crying filled the room. Finally, Phoebe's father stood. He walked over and placed a gentle hand on both their shoulders. When Phoebe was 6, he began softly. She fell off her bicycle. Linda nodded through her tears. Do you remember what she said? Phoebe smiled. Her father laughed. She looked up at us and said, Don't pick me up yet. Phoebe laughed through her tears. I wanted to do it myself. You did. Her father looked lovingly at his daughter. And that's exactly what you're asking us now. He turned to his wife. We taught her to be brave. If we stop her now, we'll only teach her to be afraid. Linda closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were filled with tears and pride. She reached up and gently brushed a strand of hair away from Phoebe's face, just as she had done when Phoebe was a little girl. You promise you'll call me every day? Phoebe smiled. Every day. You'll send photos? I'll send too many. You'll tell me if you're struggling? I promise. Linda let out a shaky laugh. You really are going, aren't you? Phoebe nodded. I need to. Her mother pulled her into another hug. This one was different. It wasn't holding on. It was letting go, very slowly, very lovingly. Outside, the evening clouds drifted across the Melbourne sky, glowing pink and gold as the sun dipped below the horizon. Phoebe looked out the window and smiled. For the first time in her life, the world didn't feel frightening. It felt possible. And somewhere beyond those clouds, a journey was waiting. A journey that would test her courage, change her heart, and lead her to a chance meeting that neither she nor a man named Jin Won could ever have imagined. The first step had not been onto an airplane. It had been spoken across a dinner table. Please let me fly.